You dancing? You dancing over there?
Stretching.
Welcome. She's here. The second episode of the Greasy Alpha podcast. We have a great friend, Abby Ballin. She's incredible. She's a comedian, photographer, videographer, model. I don't know. There's so many things you do, but overall, just bad bitch. Abby, thank you for joining the show. Thank you for being with me today. I appreciate it.
I love it. I love being here. And I love that this is like the second time I've been on a podcast and someone calls me a model. And I'm like, why? Since when is this something that people consider me as? And I'm flattered and I love it. And apparently now I got another thing to add to the resume. So
I think
thank
you
you.
should. I mean, I see so much photos of you like doing Abby stuff, whatever that is. It's always something different. That's why I can't say like what. It's just always, if you don't know Abby, you got to follow her socials and see like there's just always something you're like posing for where I'm like you're kind of like a model. Like you know what I mean? It just comes off that way at least.
That's very nice. And it's cool to hear like you're so lost in whatever you're doing, as a person, like especially if you're promoting something and working in entertainment, like you're just constantly doing something different. And sometimes stepping out and looking from the outside of how that looks to other people, I don't always consider. So hearing that's nice. But yeah, I think it's mostly because I'm a photographer. So being on that side of the lens makes me understand, okay, what do I have to do to make this the most like eye capturing and like engaging?
Yeah,
So I try to do
yeah.
that, but I never consider myself as a model. But I guess, and yeah, why not? Sure, let's go for
Why
that.
not? What do you got to lose? I can't. I have nothing to consider myself. But if I got one photo shoot of any kind, I'd be like, I'm a model now. Like
Oh,
I would just take it and be like, yeah, I do that. I do that as well. But I don't know.
that's funny that you said that because I've been recently having this thought of when do you start to claim something that you are? Like how many
Oh
times you
yeah.
have to do something before that is what you are? And
Do you-
of course I thought about that with comedy because I was like, memories pop up in your camera roll and your things and you see and I'm like, "Oh wow, like I actually didn't take my first headshot, even though obviously I'm a photographer, I take my own headshots. I have access to do that at any time. I didn't take my first headshot for almost a year after I did comedy.
oh
Like
really?
the first time I went on an open mic till the first time I actually took a headshot wasn't for almost a year. And I was trying to figure out why. And I was like, it was kind of the same thing with when I even set up an Instagram for my comedy. It was almost like a year into it before I actually defined myself as a comedian. And I think it correlated to when did I actually first get like really, really booked, like a first real
Right.
paid or something gig versus just these like new faces or whatever.
It's
And it's funny how everyone's progress is different because some people might take one comedy class and immediately do a headshot or might already have a headshot or whatever. But it's interesting to think like when is it in your head that you are this thing now?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's a really good point because I met a guy one time who gave me a business card of him being a comedian, and like I'd never seen him before. He was at an open mic with a girl on a date, and I was hosting, and we were messing around with them or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, I do stand up." I'm like, "Oh, you on the list? Do you perform?" He's like, "I don't think I'm gonna do it tonight," and I was just like, "Come on, do stand up or whatever." Then afterwards, he hands me the business card. I'm like, if you have a business card that says comedian, like, and you go to open mic and you don't do it, like, what are you doing here? Like, right? So there's jumping the gun maybe a little bit, sometimes, but then there's just the imposter syndrome of like you do it for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and you're like, am I a comedian now? Am I not? And it's like, who's to say? There is no criteria. It's kind of like what you want it to be at the end of the day. But I think a business card in like month one is a little excessive. But I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. However, I am actually really proud of him for not going up if he had a date there. I think that's one of the most cringy things. I've seen it
No,
so
we
many
made him go up.
times.
We made him go up.
Oh, you made him go,
Yeah,
oh.
yeah, basically. We kind of bullied him into it. Like, but she got a kick out of it, and he was pretty vulgar too. Like he did a lot of like vagina jokes for some reason. And I'm like and I kept peeking over at her and she's cracking up laughing. She was having a great time. So we might have helped him like seal that deal is how I
Right.
thought about it. Cause I'm like, that's just like, regardless of what you say, it's just courage, in a small room at Black Flamingo on a Thursday night with like 8 people there, it's like, that's we both know that that's like it doesn't feel that great always to do that, but like that person doesn't know that. To them, that's like that might as well be a million people, watching
Mhm.
you. So I think it worked out for him. But yeah, I don't know. There is no. We should maybe create like a I don't know, a program that like, it's like a checklist of like, when can you become a comedian, right? Because I remember asking around. I was like, I asked Danny Fallon after like 3 or 4 months. I was like, can I put that on the Instagram? Like, I'm like following everybody, and I'm like, am I? Yeah, I don't know. And it's like, he's like, yeah, you're fine. You just do it. And I'm like, all right, Danny Fallon, right? That was my like approval process to be like, yeah, I could do this.
That's
So
cute.
anyway,
Um,
interesting
well,
question.
yeah, the one thing I love about comedy in this art form is that there really are no rules, and
No,
we are our own managers. We are our own, marketing department. We are everything. So we're the writers, we're the performers, we're a whole one-stop shop. So who's to say? And I always say this as well, because when people, as a producer, people are like, when did you get booked? How should I get booked? Like all these different things. And I was like, and they'll a lot of times people will complain, like, well, I've been doing this longer, but they got booked first. And I'm like, the thing with comedy is you might be doing it for years and someone new just comes in and they just blow up fast, because what you don't know about that person that just started doing comedy is, were they doing theater before? Were
right?
they somebody who was a writer before? What is their other things that are going on in their daily life, in their past history, in their upbringing, that might prepare them better to run with this career way faster than somebody who just out of nowhere was like, I'm going to do comedy, with no background whatsoever in performing, in writing, in stage, in anything. So everyone's coming in
Yeah.
with different skill sets and all this stuff that uh, you can't really compare it. So when
you
someone
really
said,
you got
yeah,
to worry about yourself. You got to worry
mhm,
about yourself, right? Like you can't let that get you down when you see like somebody else like show up, step in. And it could be like somebody might just have dynamite personality too. They could just be so enjoyable to look at, and then over time you realize, well, you don't actually tell jokes. Like you're kind of a flash in the pan. So it's like, you know what, don't overthink it. I've learned that, just don't overthink this. Like control what you can control, have fun, and try to blaze your own trail as much as you
mhm.
can. Try to like, doing this podcast, right? That was one of those things, and I'm like, this is so annoying to set up and to do, but that's why everyone's not doing it, because it's kind of a pain in the ass to like keep going or whatever. So you got to do it your way. You got to make yourself different in your own way. It's not that people just don't like you if you're not getting booked. It's just some other bullshit you can't control. So we can't let it get to us.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways as to why you might not be getting booked yet, and why others. So the thing is you got to make your own opportunities, and sometimes it's okay to realize like maybe you're just not that funny yet. Like it's not like an on okay, I've been doing this for a month, I'm ready. It's like that might not be your timeline. Like I've seen people where I was like, I don't think I'd ever book them. Like they're just,
Yeah.
it's like not like, I kudos to them, love them. It's back to the story of bravery and being vulnerable. Like it's still something to be, condone and be and have admiration for, but not everyone is funny. And a comedian's supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Um, or at the very least entertaining. You're supposed to be entertaining.
But
So,
what do you think? Like, because a lot of people do it for different reasons. Like
mhm,
for me, it was kind of like growing up. I always felt like I was the funny kid, class clown. Grew up with funny family members, so I always wanted to be like. So I kind of like forced it a little bit at times too. But it was like there was something I always wanted. Some people, we meet a lot of people that come out of like the like programs, right, recovery programs. And they're like,
mhm.
go do something constructive. Go. You are funny, right? Everyone's got different reasons, but like how do people like analyze themselves? For me, what I did is kind of like I always recorded it video a lot, even open mics, and I would force myself to watch that and be like, you suck. Like, right, like you're so stiff, or you're so this, you're so that. I think it's just kind of like you got to throw it in your face. You got to look at yourself and be like, would I laugh at me? Right, and like that's the real test. If you can stomach your own stuff, you're like, then you can go, it's the crowd, it's this, it's that, if you're honest too with yourself, right? So I don't know, I think that's that you got to do some of that if you're gonna figure out if you're funny or not, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that's true. However, like you're one person. And so
Sure.
your sense of humor might just be singular. Like you thinking you're funny is not really the test of are you funny. Like, I think the test is, can you make others laugh? Is the test of if you're funny. And I think a lot of people rely on their choice and their own funny. And I don't really think that if you're trying to do this as a career versus a hobby, that that's really where you should be looking. Like, now, of course, sometimes it's the audience, sometimes it is. But if you do this enough, you should be able to realize, when is it the audience? When is it me? When is it the joke? When is it, there's sometimes it's just that joke didn't work, but the other ones did. Like, that's part of it
That's
too.
fair.
Not
But
everything's gonna hit.
while you're early on and you're not getting audience, right? You're getting open mic, you're getting comedians, and everyone says it's like, get the comedians to laugh. You're doing well. We've both told jokes in front of comedians that we know are funny and no one laughed. Like, it's because you know what I mean. So like, I would say my advice is like, if you're not at the show, if you're not getting booked at all yet, like you still got to like be honest with yourself with the recording. If you get booked, or even if you do new faces or something and people don't laugh then, well, then you're then you're right. Because if the crowd's not laughing then, it's like, it's tough to say that 100 people at the Improv were all not feeling you that
Yeah.
night, you know? You
Yeah.
know?
I definitely do not care about another comedian's opinion if I'm funny or not. If they laugh, great. I'm not doing this for other comedians. And I don't think that that's a good test for if you're funny or not. And true, most mics is comics. I usually
Yeah.
don't go to those kind of mics. I usually make sure there's at least a few audience if I'm going to waste, or not waste, but exert that energy. I want to make sure that there's actual a valued audience that I value there, and comics aren't my audience. Like, sometimes you can be the funniest comic to a comic, and there's like the comics. Those
Oh
are
yeah,
not
yeah.
always the most successful comedians, because comics are weird. We're weird people. We have weird sense of humors. We're also gonna relate and understand stuff that layman normal people will not be cued or have the insight on. Like, we're gonna laugh because we understand them, we've been them, so we'll be able to comment on things that normal people are like, what the hell are they talking about? So what I would say to that is, you don't always need a stage to have an audience. Like, you can be going and making the cashier at the grocery store laugh. You can be going
Great
and
point.
you have audience all the time. And that's where you practice, is in the world. If you want to be a comic, you get out there and you make people laugh, period. And you
Well,
test it out.
that's why they say, like, a lot of like these guys you see that are flying private and doing like big things now, they're like, it's sometimes hard to still be a regular person because you don't get those interactions as much anymore. Like flying commercial, right? We've all heard a million flight jokes before,
Mhm.
but it is literally the birthing ground of like jokes all the time. You can constantly find something funny on there. And like, you're right, there's people you can make laugh on airplanes who aren't expecting it, who aren't looking for it. Like, I got asked to, like, if I could, I told this in the last show, but like, if I was willing and able to like help in the event of emergency landing on the exit row, and I like looked around, I'm like, lady, I'm like the best option you got here, right? And like, I got the exit row laughing, right? So it was like, it was just like a stupid off the cuff thing that I've been drinking a little bit on. But like, you're right, like there's always an audience if you're in social settings like that are just forcing it upon you, right? It's just
Mhm.
gonna happen. To me, that's where material comes from. I think it's not just pen and paper, it's like life at the end of the day.
Yeah, I 100%. I almost never just sit down cold and write. I basically, almost all my inspiration and my premises come from everyday life. And sometimes it's an inspiring thought from something I've seen or a conversation or whatever. And then I actually sit down and write from that. But I'm never just like, just cold, like it's time to write, and then have to like pull something out of my ass. Like, I'm usually like, oh, that conversation was fire. I just talked about some weird shit that like I think will be
Yeah.
relatable. And
Do you,
now after that, let me go and try to actually make a joke from that.
and that's awesome, right? Because then from there you can kind of take the idea and then you can write on that a little bit, you can expand. And like, I
Mhm.
always say, like, everything I tell has some bit of truth to it, and it's a matter of how great was the situation versus how cool is the idea. And it kind of changes, like, how truthful is this like
Mhm.
joke at the end of the day. It's just kind of, but it all starts from an idea, then you write on that. But I do have a question. Do you have one concept or joke that or premise that you still think is hilarious and you still haven't been able, like, you can't let it go, right? Like, it's still like burning in your head as like, this is one of those things that like, I will make this funny one day. I just haven't made it funny yet. Do you have anything like that yet? Because I always like asking that to comedians, and you hear their thing, and it's always funny because it means something to them. You know, it's always enjoyable to me. I love this question.
So I feel like I probably have a few of those. And usually I'll do them for a little bit of time and then I don't do them, but I don't forget them. I'm like, I will at some point get back to this. Cause a lot of times it's just like, okay, this is hitting hard. And it's just like easier to just work with what's just hitting right
Yeah.
away without having to like, work smarter, not harder. So it's like, this is just working. Why am I going to keep going after the thing that even though I love is just like it's going to take so much more effort to get it so people can digest it.
Yeah.
So I guess the one that first comes to mind, and usually the topic is almost always there's a sadness to it. I can laugh at trauma and sadness, no problem. I find
For
it
better or
hilarious.
for worse. Yeah. Sometimes you find yourself kind of
And the
in a
audience
situation.
doesn't always
Yeah.
want that. They don't always want it. So the joke is, and I've posted it and it works. Sometimes it works, and I haven't done this in like, since God, almost a year ago. So I don't even think I'm going to remember it exactly, but it's basically that I have an exterminator come to my house and he's explaining the difference between, he's got such, it starts with, have you ever met somebody who's so passionate about their job, but their job is killing bugs? Like they love their job, but their job's disgusting. Like, why do they have such a passion? So I have an exterminator come over the other day and he's explaining me all the different varieties of bugs, the difference between, the German cockroach and the American cockroach. And guess what? They're both racist, and that's kind of like a little punch that I put in there to make it okay. And I was like, and he tells me about IGR, which is what we think is the poison that kills bugs, but is actually not killing them. What it does is it makes them unfuckable. It mutates them and their offspring so that they have a funky antenna or they have like a broken wing, and everyone looks at them and they're so ugly that no one wants to procreate with them. So therefore, generations after are extinct. So therefore, it kills them by making them unfuckable. And it makes me think of the scientist in the lab that's just like, if I can't get a date, they can't either. And he's just like this bitter, nerdy scientist who just wants to like make bugs like not have sex because he can't get laid. And I think it's hilarious, and I definitely need to like punch it up more. But half the time, people are like, "Why are you talking about bugs? Oh, this is so sad. This is so sad that this bug is like, having a broken antenna. Like, this is twisted, and it is twisted. Like, what?
It's
Who's
not that
doing it?
bad. It's not that bad, dude. I mean, that's so. I had no clue though. But the concept is great when you explain that of like the sickness of somebody to be like, we're not just gonna kill them. We're gonna make it traumatic, like for the
Yeah.
bug's life, right? Like you got these, just like
But
these
people start
demented.
feeling bad for the bugs. They start and they're like, don't want to laugh because they're like, this is fucked up. And I'm like, it's fucked up. Yeah. When you get an exterminator over your house, they're not just, okay, go to sleep, bugs. It's like, no, it's much more sinister.
I love that one. All right, that's great. I'm so glad you told me that. That's good. You're gonna punch that eventually, and you're gonna get it crisp to the point where people look past like the sadness or like to some. You have to, I don't know. Some you'll figure it out. But I'm
It
glad
just
you
needs
shared that with
more.
me.
You
That's
need
fun.
to, it's one of those jokes where it needs a punchline after every almost word because you're talking about bugs. And especially certain people, like if I didn't look like this and I was talking about bugs, it might work better. But for me, people don't want me talking about bugs.
Mhm.
People want me talking about like sex and rough and edgy topics. Like I feel like I start to be like bugs. And I'm like, what? You have bugs? No, you should be clean, be pretty, don't.
They're like, you don't have bugs, girl. What are you
You don't
talking
have
about?
bugs. And I'm like, bitch, I live in Florida. I like my house warm and I keep my door open for my dogs. I got bugs. Like, we got bugs, like.
I love that. I love that. All right. I actually had a funny story. I wanted to see what you thought of this, and it kind of didn't remind me of you, but the other day I saw you posted something of like childhood yearbook photos, right?
Mm.
Which was adorable, by the way. But I was eating breakfast at a diner. It's a true story. Nothing to do with bugs, or it's not even a bad joke. It's not even a joke that I haven't finished. It's just really happened. I was sitting at a diner outside, and I saw this little kid walk up to this flock of birds, and the mother runs and grabs the kid and goes, "Don't play with them. They'll remember your face and find you." And I was like, you know how traumatic that is as a kid? I don't know if she uses that a lot or if it's like a one-time thing or what exactly but that kid's never going to look at a bird the same way again. It's like reverse finding out about Santa Claus. It's like one day they're going to be like, "Oh, I was lying about the birds tracking you down," and being like, "Who's that little kid that was, coming at me?" Like, have you ever heard that? Is that a thing parents
So it's
use for
actually
kids?
crows. It's crows. It's not all birds. Crows can remember you and hold grudges. It's a real
That's
thing.
real.
But
That's
I don't
real.
know. I don't know what parents are teaching that. However, my mom. It makes me think of like a horror story my mom did to me when I was younger, which was, I used to collect butterflies when I
Okay.
was a kid in the summer. I would like catch them, put them in like a little like bird cage kind of thing, keep them for like a little bit and then free them, which is kind of evil and fucked up. But like I love
Mhm.
butterflies and I wanted to stare at them for longer.
The bug killing joke makes more sense now. So go.
Yeah, I really liked butterflies. I feel bad. I loved animals, whatever. I feel bad about this. But anyway, it was time to free my monarchs. And I free them. And as I free one, I see this fucking praying mantis come and gobble my butterfly I just freed. And I was super upset about it. And I was like, fucking so pissed. So I squashed the praying mantis and killed it because it was like eye for an eye. There's another story that's connected as to why I learned eye for an eye, which maybe when I've told this on stage before, I usually pair those two. But anyway, the story, I wasn't trying to make it a joke, even though it turned into one, was I killed the praying mantis, proudly brought the carcass of the praying mantis to my mother to be like, hey, this guy killed my butterfly. So I killed him. And coincidence, karma, timing, I don't know. There happened to be like a helicopter flying above our head at that same moment. I was coming with my trophy. And my mom points to the helicopter and she goes, "You know what that is, Abby? That's the FBI. Praying mantises are going extinct right now. And they know that you just killed that thing. So if you ever kill a praying mantis again, they're gonna come for you and they're gonna lock you up. Do you want to get locked up, Abby?" And I was like looking at the helicopter and looking at my thing, and I was like, holy shit, like someone's always watching. Like that's terrifying.
Dude, that's dude, your mom really dug in deep there on that one. Like, and it sounds like that was very improvised. Like that wasn't a planned thing. Like if she ever kills a bug, I'm gonna tell her that, the hell, right. It was all improvised, all on the spot. Have you talked to her about this like ever? Like I've
Well,
been like
I
did
wish
it
I
did
would
it
have talked to my mom a lot more. She has dementia now, so I can't really talk to her
Oh,
about
okay,
it.
sorry. Yeah.
But no, it's fine. No, I should have. She was such a little. I love her so much. She's fucking hilarious. But she would never admit to anything unless it was positive. You know, like she's one of those people. Like if I was like, remember that time you like taught me this thing and I learned, and she would be like, "Oh yeah, totally." And I'm like, "Remember that time you hit me with the rhinestone belt buckle?" She'll be like, "I don't know what you're talking about." You
She's
know,
like, "No, you
like
hit me with the rhinestone." Right, right. You don't remember that? You hit me.
yeah, yeah.
My
So
mom,
it's
my mom
definitely
did something similar once. Like I was really, she actually went out of her way to do it though. So your mom's just like on the spot. My mom was maybe a little bit more messed up, and I love my mom. And we're very close. But I was a tough kid. I was just like always breaking something or running around or pissing someone off or whatever. Like harmless, but just like a pain in the ass. And I don't know what got into them one day, but I was misbehaving, probably 4 or 5 years old, something like that. My mom took me to like the garbage dump that was like not too far from us and like told me that this is where they take children who are really bad and don't behave. And like there was like a guy outside working. She's like, and that's the guy that's gonna come take you if you don't start behaving and don't whatever I was doing wrong. And I remember that traumatized me for like a long time. And now it's hilarious. And I realized many years later, like not that many years later, I'm like, okay, that's not true. But in the moment, my mom tells it. She's almost got to tell it herself now. She's like, I didn't know what to do with you. She's like, you were causing such hell. I had to pull something out of my ass that was gonna scare you. Finally, she's like, nothing I said would work. So I was like, well, maybe if I tell you they're gonna take you to the garbage dump, that'll set you straight. So I guess as parents, you kind of just have those moments sometimes. I guess.
I feel like it's a very old school parenting of like, let's scare them. Let's scare
Yeah.
them into behaving. Where I feel like more modern parenting is like, let's actually explain this and get them to understand like the risks in what they're doing so that like treat them as an adult almost instead of like, you know, a kid and traumatize them. But yeah, I get, as you say that, I'm like, there's a million times where like, that house is a witch. Don't go near that. Like all these things that parents would tell us to stay away from certain things, which I'm like, really? We needed to think
Yeah.
that that witch ate children. Like that was the way to get us to not turn down that street. Like,
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
there
No,
have been
no,
a
no.
better way? Couldn't, you know, couldn't you just
I
been
don't
like,
know. I just think you're trying to scare the like in certain things you're just trying to put the fear of like God into kids
mm,
without putting the fear of God. Like just something else like more tangible that they can actually be afraid of, I guess, in situations. But yeah, I don't know. There's probably some twisted psychology to that these moms have been kind of screwing us up, but it's
yeah.
all right. We'll be fine. We're doing okay. So we'll be
Oh yeah. No, it's fine. And one of the reasons why I'm not a parent either. I don't want that job. That job's horrendous.
I feel like
Like,
every time you see a helicopter though, you're kind of like, are they following me? Like what's going on?
oh, I 100% both my parents made me believe I'm watched all the time. And I'm just like, what's up? Where's my agent at? Hello. How do I look
Yeah,
today?
right.
You know?
Yeah,
Like,
right. The model comes out. I'm telling you.
the model comes out. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I kind of hope someone's watching me because they're getting some great entertainment. I am like, you think what I post is entertaining? What I don't share is probably even weirder. Um, yeah, but
do you,
uh,
do you have like a nostalgic kid movie? That's something I want to start asking everybody. Is like that nostalgic kid movie that you love. That your recommendation for the week. What is it?
so I have like my favorite kid movie, but I feel like when I've told people to watch it as an adult, it doesn't transfer or translate in the same way, which bums me out. But I'm still gonna share it because, like, maybe if you saw it when you were a kid, you're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, that was the shit." If you try to watch it now, watch it with a kid's lens, I guess. Drop Dead Fred. Do you know this movie?
No, I haven't seen this. Drop
Okay,
Dead Fred.
so it's
Tell
like
me
a
about it.
yeah, so it's a weird. I don't know the actor. He's like a British actor, I think, but there's two notable celebrities in this film, and one's Phoebe Cates. Do you know who Phoebe Cates is?
No, but I'm pulling this up and looking at it. Okay, go keep going. Phoebe, is that's not Phoebe from Friends, right? No, that wouldn't make
No,
sense.
no,
Okay.
she was very popular in like the 80s and 90s. She's got a famous scene in that one like teenage film where she comes out of the pool in a red bathing suit. Everyone knows her for that.
Oh yeah, that's Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah. So she
Yeah,
was
so
that girl.
she's the red bathing suit girl.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
And then she's way more wholesome in this film. But anyway, and then Princess
That's a
Leia,
shame.
Carrie Russell. What's Princess
Carrie
Leia?
Fisher.
Carrie
Okay.
Fisher. She's also in it. So those are like the two celebrities in this film. And then like the main character, I think, is some like theater actor that did this film. But it's basically Phoebe Cates, her imaginary friend from when she's a child, comes to life when she's going as an adult when she's going through a divorce. And he's just wild and reckless and he's doing all these pranks and she looks insane, but it's like her basically like reconnecting with her childhood and like whatever. It's hilarious and I emulated him as a kid in every way possible. So like he has this whole scene where he like cuz he's invisible and only she can see him, so he like crawls and goes under women's dresses and like looks
Oh
up and
wow.
he'll be like, no panties, no panties. And like I would do that. I would like crawl on my back and go underneath women's dresses and yell like no panties. Or this other one he did where he went under the mother's dress and he was like, cobwebs, there's some cobwebs, you know? And I would do that as a kid. I would go and like go underneath women's dresses and yell if they had cobwebs or no panties. And I thought he was hilarious. And it was just like, yeah, it was I think I always
You're like,
wanted that. I always wanted the
yeah.
imaginary friend. So having that, you know, watching the film as a kid and thinking maybe it's a possibility if I will him enough, maybe like a magical person will show up.
You're like crawling under panties or crawling under dresses, and you're like, huge cock. I'm just kidding.
That would
uh,
be, yeah.
I just looked at it, and I'll post a picture of this on here when I post this. But yeah, the face looked familiar. It was like the redheaded like looking like crazy guy, right? Like, so
Hmm.
that's interesting. I'm gonna watch that again just because you recommended it. So like it would be wrong if I didn't. But that's awesome.
Maybe
Like
watch it really high or something. I don't know if you smoke,
I'll
but
I'll get in the mood for it. I'll make sure that I'm in a position to watch it. But I love movies. Like I can, especially nostalgic ones, because I think newer movies for me, I have a harder time watching because they're just so cheesy. Like in like a, I think you made this fast. You have like Netflix originals. I think are my least favorite movie because they're like it's the same storyline again and again. They're just pumping them out left and right. Like I liked when movies took a little time to come out, like for something because it was like excitement. Now it's like too much. But yeah, no, it's nostalgic. And dude, that line, what was that movie rated? Probably it probably wasn't even
it
PG
probably
13
bombed. I don't think it was even, yeah, I don't even think
because like
it made it.
that line of like crawling under on Rotten Tomatoes, it's 11%. It's
Yeah, no, it's got to be bad. It's got to be horrible. I know, like people are gonna be like, I can't believe it, but as a kid, it was hilarious,
I'm
and
trying to. I don't
the
know what it
whole
was. Oh, it was
storyline.
PG
Like, I would
13.
love
It
to
was
see
PG
it.
13. Yeah.
I would love to see it rebooted because I think with a modern twist, it would be hilarious. Because there's a scene where she goes to the psychologist to get rid of him, or psychiatrist to get rid of him, and it's all these kids and all their imaginary friends. So like one kid's imaginary friend's like the crash dummy, and he like can run into walls and blow up, and it's just like to think about in a kid's mind, what would you imagine is your best friend? And it's really
Yeah.
weird. Her best friend was like this like redheaded like clown from Britain. But um it's very cute. This I remember it's like it's a definite kids film. It's a definite kids film. So watching as an adult is a little like, all right, this is cheesy. But
That's fun though. But like one of my favorite movies still, not just kids movies in general, is the movie Heavyweights. I don't know if you've ever seen
oh
that. It was like
yeah, heavyweights. So
I
cute.
love that. I still will watch that because it's so funny, and it's Judd Apatow. So like that's actually like
Yeah.
why it's probably so funny because that was like an earlier thing that he did. But like, yeah, you can't do that anymore, and that sucks. You can't have a movie about fat kids, and like that's one of my favorite things. It's one of my best jokes, like stuff like that. So like, yeah, no, I'm glad I'm gonna watch that in the next like week or two. I will watch that, and I'll text you and be like, hey, like I get it. I get why as a kid,
No,
especially
you're
too.
not gonna love
Yeah.
it because you're not a kid, but you'll probably get there's some funny scenes and lines in it. No, kids movies that hold up. Like I was obsessed with Beetlejuice. Like I watched that
Okay.
shit on
Yeah.
repeat, and I could still watch that. It's a great film. Like there's certain films that you watched as a kid, and it was for adults too. Like
Right. Yeah.
they still worked. You know.
They slipped a little something in there for the adults. All right. Another question for you. If $1 million landed in your lap right now, you had to spend it tax free. What are you gonna buy? How you blasting through $1 million?
Real
Can't
estate.
save it. You can't real okay. Oh, that's so fucking lame, Abby. All right. Option one, real estate. Option two, do something fun.
All right. Why don't you say that? Like you have to spend it on something that's like you're
I
burning.
like the responsible
You
side of
have to
you,
burn them.
but I like the responsible side, but I want to hear the irresponsible side that doesn't care about your future spending that money. Go for that.
Travel.
Okay, that's
Just
fair.
yeah, just travel, see like everything I could possibly see. I'd probably go everywhere, every single place. Like I'd go to Alabama. I would hit every state I've never been in America to like the weirdest like this town is known for their like potato bread, like whatever, like the little tiny town and their one thing and eat that one thing. And then I would go to like everywhere in Asia, everywhere. I don't know, Middle East might be scary, but I'd try to hit
Yeah,
safely
not right
some
now.
places. Yeah, some places. Hit, like basically like I think with $1 million you could probably see the entire world, especially if you didn't like splurge.
Yeah, if you were pretty tight about it, right, and you flew commercial, you weren't first
Yeah.
class, like for the most part, weren't first class. Like you could probably knock out a huge chunk of the
But
U.S. and
how
like
amazing would that be to be
or
like,
the world.
I've been
Oh,
to every single corner of this earth?
That's like a goal. That's like a life goal for me, 100%. And it's like I know you can't see every city. That's like it's way too impossible. But you could see every major city probably, especially in the U.S. Like you could go to every state's got one or two major cities. You can probably hit all those, no problem. Hit up every country, no problem. On $1 million, like for sure. If you keep
Yeah.
it in line, I just do love the idea of going to like really small U.S. cities though, and like kind of causing a scene. Like as you
Mhm.
roll up in like not a nice car, but like a nicer ish car. Like who is that, right? Like a 2,000 population kind of city. Like why are they here for our potato bread, right? Right now, you know what I mean?
All right, and then I have more ridiculous, like less selfish.
Yes,
I want
yes,
to go to
yes.
every strip club in America and find the oldest stripper that's still working and make it rain on her. Like
Yes, dude.
like I'm like, where's the oldest ones? Like you've been doing some shit you did not want to do, and I want to
Where's
thank you
Babs?
for your service. Like give me, because
It doesn't
they
have
don't
like
get enough credit. I feel like sex workers, especially like strippers, they don't get credit for all the shit that they do. Like they're keeping people like not shooting up schools. They're keeping people like not robbing banks. They're keeping people like not
they
killing
do
themselves, Like
they
they are.
provide a level of like sanity for people that are like maybe too awkward to go talk to a real person,
Hmm.
need a little comfort, I guess, in their life of some sort or the other, just a
Mhm.
human interaction with a woman or something. You're probably right. They've probably saved lots of lives just because they were like there for someone, even though it's fake, even though like they try to pull the like I don't normally talk to guys in here, but you're different, kind of move. It's like that guy doesn't care. He wants to hear that. He's paying to hear that. Like it's just like anything else you pay for, right? Like it's there's something you're getting in return for it.
I feel like strippers and strip clubs would be far more accepted and acceptable if you had to be over the age of 30 to strip. I
Oh,
think
because then
that
it's less
half the reason
manipulative
people
to yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
like once you're 30, that's a choice. You've tried other things, you've done other things, it didn't work out, and you're whatever. I think half the reason why people feel bad or feel whatever is like they're so young, they haven't seen the world yet, they haven't seen life yet. Like they should once they get into that, they're not going to be able to get out. Like all these things that they feel bad for the youth and doing this. But I'm like, if how many people feel bad for the grown ass stripper doing this shit? No one feels bad for her.
No,
Everyone's like,
no.
fuck yeah, get your money, girl. Go get it. You know what's
Yeah.
up. Like you know how to protect yourself. You know how to say no. You know your boundaries. Like you're a full fledged woman now. But I feel
Yeah.
like people feel bad for young girls and they think like, oh, we got to save you, even though some of them are totally headstrong, know what they're doing, did not get tricked, did not come from broken homes. Like they're just like, this is the way I can make
Sure.
my
But it's
money.
not but it's not an option then at that point, right?
Yeah.
It forces you to stretch your mind in another way than be like, well, I'm hot. Let me go like sell that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And like it's fine, right? There's plenty you hear so many good stories out of it. It's like, oh, I stripped, made money, went to college, whatever. But you're right. You're right. Because yeah, I think that's a cool idea. I'm glad you said 30 though, and not like 45, because I'm like, no one's gonna go then. Like,
No,
at some point, it defeats the purpose of having them. But that's a
totally.
fair age. That's a fair age
I feel
to
like
choose.
30 or maybe even 25. It doesn't matter. Like if you just like it's hard when it's like a majority of them are 18, 19, 20, 21, and it's like like
It's
they
kind
are
of it.
very young. They are very young and it's like I totally get, like it's fair. But like I think people feel bad and I'm like I don't think they would if they're older.
Yeah,
And I also think that they would be able to know themselves better and to make their decisions and what they're know the consequences and like, all these things. So,
it's funny. Yeah, it's kind of now. Let's say we change that. It reminds me of like there's a Gillian Keefe sketch that you might have seen where like old fashioned powdered wig thing of like let's vote on the age of consent. Like right, like
mhm.
they're like doing that. And, like who's gonna go first? And they like nose goes it because like nobody wants to be the one who's like picking that. And then I forget it's like Rhode Island, and they're like 12, and everyone's like and then like another state goes up. He's like 20 or it was like 28 and everyone's like what are you crazy, right? And then like they kind of like agree on like 18 whatever however fucking goes. But that would be the argument, right? If we brought that up, people would be like 30, are you kidding me? Like what do we like it would kind of be, it would cause a ruckus of people being like, well, then why are we even going? You know, at this point. But I think it's a cool idea, and you're right, they do deserve their praise. Shout out to Bubbles in South Carolina.
Babs,
Love you.
bubbles, and sprinkles.
Yeah.
Speaking of age of consent, you can always tell when a guy is like a little off, a little pervy, when he knows which state the age
When
of
they
the
checked.
consent in different states. Because I grew up in New York, I thought 18 across the board, but actually in certain states it is 16, in certain states it's 17. Like they're not all aligned. And I dated a guy and he actually knew the difference between which age you could do it in different states, and I was like, if there was a red flag, like that is it. Like that's super cringe for you to like have a map to know like, okay, if I go there it's safe to fuck a 16-year-old.
Yeah, no, that's like, that is cringe. That is a problem. Because, you know, he's probably flexing that line a little bit. That's why it's also cringe. You're like, dude, just stick to like the normal number we all agree on. Those states are fucking idiots for changing it in any way. That's just not, that's so irresponsible. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's get away from that.
You're gonna go look it up after this, aren't you?
I'm curious which one's the, someone told me this once, because there was somebody yelling, not yelling at me, but you know how you talk to someone that's very passionate about something. Someone was explaining this to me. I think there's like counties in California maybe that have like the younger age kind of thing, and they were like screaming at me about it, and I had nothing to do with it. It's just some people, when they explain something to you, they're very passionate, and I'm like, yeah, dude. Oh, it was a barber. I was at a barber shop one time and somebody was like getting very hyped up about, you know, it's too young, all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I agree, but can you just cut my hair and like not be so angry like right now? Dude, that's crazy. All right. So I love that. I love the travel. I love also that you'd go try to find the oldest stripper, and that'd be an awesome TikTok. Abby does strip clubs, and try to find the oldest one. That'd be incredible. Let's see. I got another question for you here. All right, this is a fun one. This is something new. Everything's new because this is episode 2, but this is very new. So, when you drive, do you ever eat in the car, like while you're driving? Have you ever?
I mean, as a passenger, yes, often like road trips and stuff like that. If I'm actually driving, I'll have like a piece of fruit. I'll have maybe some nuts or something like that. But like,
Okay.
I'm not like having a full meal while
Kind of lame.
while
All
I'm
right. Well, that's what this is. That's what these questions are about. So let's see how you answer them. They're definitely not coming from experience or anything. So let's go with like a fast food cheeseburger. Can you eat that while driving?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't, have you?
I don't really do. If I'm doing
Okay.
fast food, like it's more like a chicken nugget, like I feel like I'm not doing.
Pivot. Can you eat chicken nuggets while driving?
Yes.
With sauce or without sauce?
I know a little sauce. I could do a little sauce trick. You put it on the dashboard and then dunk it.
Okay. All right. There we go. I love the trick that you got. All right. Everyone's got a little sauce trick. Because if you're out there and you're watching, and you eat chicken nuggets and you drive, you know how because you can't just raw dog a chicken nugget. Like it's meant for dipping. If you're raw dogging chicken nuggets, you probably are also looking at the age of consent in states. Like you're a psychopath. Okay. What about an ice cream cone? Can you do that while driving?
Oh.
No. Okay.
No, I can barely eat an ice cream cone like in land. Like I'm not doing it on wheels.
Okay, fair enough. What about this? This should be an obvious one. Soup.
If it's a cup and you sip in it, maybe.
I didn't think about that. I did not think about cup of soup. All right, because I was gonna say obvious no, but there's some crazy people, and judging by your other answers, I'm like, there's no way she's gonna say yes. But let's just still, when I was brainstorming this,
soup, I would live off of soup. So to me, I'm like, oh, I'll find a way to eat that. Yeah.
See, like this is going better than I thought, because you were like, not really. Then like it turns out Abby does eat and drive. Okay, spaghetti.
No.
I've done it before.
Nothing messy.
Okay, and last one, sushi.
It deserves better. Sushi deserves better than eating it in the car.
Fair.
I respect sushi too much to do that to it.
And it's tough because you don't often have sushi that's edible in a car, because it's not like it's not usually a to-go thing. sometimes if you go to Publix, or I'm in Texas, that they have HEB here, right? They have the sushi stand. I've pounded some sushi before, like in a car, like
Mm.
and it's weird. You do feel like trash a little bit, but it's poppable. And
Mhm.
it does require some sauce and whatnot. It's kind of like the Asian chicken nugget, if we're being honest here.
You could like I could if I respected it less, I would do exactly what I did with the nugget for sushi. But to me, sushi is like one of my favorite foods, and I'm like, I want to enjoy this thoroughly, and I'm not going to if I'm driving.
Yeah. Okay. Totally fair. Let's see. As we're gonna wrap up here shortly, any funny stories, anything interesting you wanted to share with the world? Why I have you on camera in front of millions of people?
I don't know, but are you in Texas now? You moved to Texas?
I'm visiting, so I've been doing this little journey around the country. So put everything in storage. Went to Denver for a month, and then came to Austin for a month. So just I work remote during the day, so I
Mhm.
just been kind of doing that, and then exploring the cities and doing comedy at night, like kind of like all that stuff, basically. Just having some fun. Actually, leaving tomorrow morning to head back to Florida. So Florida's back on the horizon again.
Okay, so you're kind of doing the $1 million deal.
Except I don't have $1 million, but yeah, yeah,
But
exactly,
yeah, you work
exactly.
remote, so why not? I do not understand why more people who work remote don't do that. There's actually some sort of hotel thing that's all over the world. It's got like a girl's name. Have you heard? I can't remember it, but it's like Colleen
Uh,
or something like that. I can't think of what the, or maybe it's Alanis or Ellis. I don't
th-
know. I'll figure out the name,
there,
but it's some sort
there's
of
a
hotel
couple.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. No,
And
go
you
ahead,
can
go ahead.
live, it's like you just have like a rent, basically a monthly rent, like $1,000 or something, depending on if you want a single room only or like you're okay with roommates, which you may or may not have. And basically you just pay that fee, and then you can, there, anywhere you could go to Thailand, you could go to Colombia, you could go to Kentucky. They have them everywhere, and you can stay for as long as you want. As long as you're paying that monthly thing, you can stay in all these places and just bounce around. And a lot of them are in beautiful places. They have pools, they have gyms, they have whatever, co-working spaces. And I'm like, why would you not be doing that if you have a job where you can do it from wherever?
Yeah, yeah. I've seen a couple of those things, and like
Celine,
because
maybe Celine, what the fuck's the name?
there's a few of them, because like we're staying at a place now that's like actually run by one of those, but they're on Airbnb too. So we're just doing like a monthly version of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't have the length of time I know I'm gonna do this for, so I don't want to like sign one of those things. It's the same reason not to sign a lease. It's like it's nice to just pop into Airbnbs and figure it out as you go, kind of. So that it's super cool, like, and being outgoing and like talking, like you meet interesting people, like, right, I put myself in situations that like between gyms and comedy, like watching sports on the weekends and stuff, like I've just got a chance to meet some really like interesting cats, like in the journey, and it's been a lot of fun. The only hard part is it's hard, as you know, to like get your footing into a comedy scene for 5-6 weeks. Like you have to like blow up. You have to get people to like you very fast to like be able to get booked, to get good shows, to not just be a micer. But at the same time, it's fun to just, even if you're doing mics, like I've been like Denver was like all mics. Here's been mostly all mics. You still get to enjoy the scene, like hear some of the gossip, hear the fun stuff, like meet just interesting cats that do comedy and whatnot. So like it's like it's been really fun. I've met some really cool people like along the way. It's been really cool.
If you know where you're heading next, what I know you're coming back to Florida, but next time you go out, message people, send reels before you get there, because it's
Yeah,
really almost for any city you go to, it's really easy for a visiting out of town comic to get booked when you like, but you have to do it like a month or two out and be like, hey, I'm
yeah,
coming to town these dates. And then once you already have some shows, then you can obviously sandwich in mics and possibly, like I've done that when I was going to Austin before. I booked a couple shows, and then once I already had a couple shows booked, it was much easier to get other shows booked. But, you know, once you
yeah.
just, that's the thing, is once you just show up to a city, it's like a lot of those shows are booked already. Like producers book those things like weeks, months in advance. So like
Yeah,
it's kind of too
that
late
was the
at that
thing.
point.
I dragged my feet on some of that, and I was like, oh, whatever. But I was cool, honestly. Just like I said, meeting people and all that's like been good. I got the mothership mic. I got to do that. That was really
Yeah.
cool. And
I
I
was
got
gonna
to do
ask
Kill
you.
Tony 2 days ago, and that's,
Yeah.
dude, my mind is still blown. My heart still
Yeah.
races from it. Like it's a. I think we both know it's like it's not for most people, including myself. It's not like a career changing like thing, but the level of excitement I felt from getting my name called to walking in to doing it to sitting here talking to you about it is the most exciting thing that's like I've ever been a part of in 3 years of comedy now. Like
Mhm.
it's hard to explain. And when I close my eyes, I think back to like that sequence of events. It still blows my mind that it happened because you really have to like accept the fact that you're one of 200 and it's probably not going to happen. And then when you hear your name, you're like, what? Like it doesn't resonate. And then it just blew my mind. It was absolutely crazy. You're like walking downstairs through an alley, upstairs. They're taking everything out of your pockets. They're like, all right, Hans Kim's on right now. You're going to go after him. And they're like, it's Ron White and Pauly Shore. And I'm like, all right. What jokes am I telling again? Like, right. It's like everything, it just hits you so hard all at once. And I was a little bit buzzed. And immediately that goes away because the adrenaline just fires off and you're like, all right, well, I'm pretty much sober now. So like, let's go do this. Right. It's incredible. It was a really cool experience. It should be
It
out
went
next week, I
well.
think.
It went well.
Set was good. Interview, I'd say, was good. Just neither one was great. Right. So I think I was unmemorable in a good or bad way, which I'll take. I'll take that over like flopping really hard or like, I mean, I'd obviously rather have been like
Yeah.
very memorable, right? But like I didn't shit the bed. And there was a point like during like because you're in a separate room, like held like, just waiting basically, like with I was playing poker with people, and you know how things are going by the speed in which you hear names get called. So there was one point in the show where it must have been 2 to 3 people, like it was like almost like back to back of like, oh, another name got called. So someone just went up there unprepared and like like wasn't ready for it. So I went after Hans. I had a good enough interview. I got a joke book. I got a medium sized joke book and a gel blaster. I got a little bit of compliments from Ron and Pauly, so like I'll take that as a dub. I got to watch it, obviously, but like
Hmm.
it feels like an out of body experience. Like what, like
Yeah.
for that to happen, it was really cool. It was awesome. And again, I've been here for 5 weeks now, so I've made friends. I was hanging out with people, playing poker, like people I've met for weeks now. Like so to come back into the room, and for a lot of people that I've just networked and talked a lot to people, for a lot of people to walk up to me and be like, Tony, congrats. Like it felt like I'd like done something else good. It's like, right. I like made an
Yeah.
impact, right. I've met people that cared and weren't bitter that I got called up. So that's like a personal win kind of too, right. It's like,
Yeah.
I did the right stuff with comedians. I was genuine and like they actually gave a fuck that it was for me. So yeah, it was amazing. It was really fucking cool. Such a surprise too. Such a surprise. So cool.
That's so
I'd
fun.
last thing I'll tell you, then we can like I actually missed the mothership mic. I was like 10 seconds late to signing up. It's a very like tough to they're tight on time. My Uber took way too long, all this stuff. Like I jumped out of a moving Uber, like ran up to the doors closing, like one of those like put your arm in and like wait. I couldn't have been more upset. It's my last week in Austin. So I'm like went for a long walk, found some alcohol, just started destroying myself, like smoked a cigarette, which I don't do. I haven't smoked a cigarette in like 5 years. And I was like, I'm like, God, I'm so upset. But I'm like, get in the right mindset. What if you get on Kill Tony? You're just gonna be in a bad mood. So I got out of the bad mindset. I had a long day, right? Everything felt like it collapsed under my feet at that point. And then I was the first one to go on the show, and I'm like, what? Like, let's go, dude. So it was great. It was great. So I'm glad I got to talk to you about it. It was fun.
Yeah. Well, no, when I saw that and I already knew that we were doing this, I was like, oh, cool. I actually get to talk to him about it, which is fun because
Yeah.
most of the people I've known that have gotten called up had great experiences, except for one. And ever since that one person had a bad experience, I'm always like nervous because I'm always like, oh, I really hope none of my friends have a
Yeah.
bad experience because it's such a big platform for it to go in an unfavorable way is really shitty.
Yeah. You almost like it's like when you fantasize about the first one, you're kind of like you have different expectations. So now I'm like, if I got on again here, I would probably be more calm in the interview. I think I was more nervous in the interview to say the wrong thing than I was to just be myself was probably
Yeah.
it. Cause you're like, you don't want to, you're just like, don't give them a reason to dislike you. Don't try too hard. Don't talk over them. That's always one of those things where they're like,
Mm.
shut the fuck up. We're talking, right? Like it's like you really try to walk that line of like being perfect on there. And I think it got to me a little bit, but I was happy enough with my set. Things came out right. I'll watch it and see. I mean, for all I know, I was mumbling the whole time. It's just like nothing else that I've done ever in life except bungee jumping. That's probably the closest thing I can describe to the same feeling of like how fast and like crazy the adrenaline hits you for that, because you don't have almost any time. It's like name, walk, go in. All right, you're next. Everyone's really nice though. Everyone's super super nice backstage and all that. But it's
Mm.
yeah, it's a ton. It's a ton. So yeah, it's awesome.
Well, I'm so happy. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be,
Yeah, yeah.
regardless, it's just cool to have a clip from that. So,
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, thank you so much for making time to come do this. I always love talking to you, and I appreciate it. You always booking me when I was kind of like a newbie and giving me some shots. So I was like, I've always loved talking to you, and you booked me a little bit early when nobody liked me, and I was like, I gotta get some Abby Ballin, and you took my headshots too, which I still got to post about. So maybe I'll do like a joint post of like, watch the episode, look at my headshots, follow Abby, get your own headshots, all that stuff. So I
yeah, always
appreciate you.
happy. Always happy to talk to you. Super bummed you're not down here anymore, but please let me know next time you're in town. I'll get you up. So,
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Abby. I'll talk to you soon.
all right, bye.